Hello, back again with another one of these videos about my CD collection. I got out of alphabetical order here. My CDs got moved around. So I talked about Basement Tone in the last video, when the next one up should have been Syd Barrett. Um, I have two of his CDs. He didn't have very many albums. There are a lot of collections where they gathered as many tracks as they possibly could. But he only actually had two real studio albums. There was the Madcap Laughs, which is this one, and Barrett, which had a bunch of insects on the cover. Um, I didn't. I had Barrett on CD, but somebody borrowed it and never gave it back. But that's okay. I ended up getting a two record set that has, I think it's called Apples and Oranges. And it has the Madcap Laughs, his first solo record, and Barrett, his second solo record. Both are really good. I think I prefer the second one, the Barrett album, just a little bit better. It's a little bit more polished. There's some great songs here on the Madcap Laughs. I love the opening song Terrapin. The line, "Oh baby, my hair's on end about you," is just such an interesting line, and his delivery is really cool. Um, I wasn't a Pink Floyd fan in my teenage years. I found them very depressing. I found that their music just brought me down. So I tried to avoid it as much as possible, and I never really got into the whole story of them. It wasn't until years later, when I was in my 20s, that I heard about Syd Barrett and how he used to be the lead singer of the band, but had an LSD induced nervous breakdown, I guess you could say. He was a person who was probably I think some people are a little more predisposed towards schizophrenia, and I think LSD kind of put him over the edge. It's a tragic story, but he was no longer effective as the lead singer of Pink Floyd. But maybe he was happy. Maybe he was happy once he left Pink Floyd. I don't know. But this record, it was a difficult thing to get onto tape. There were times where he was just not productive. He could go into the studio, and there's songs where there are tracks that they have from Abbey Road where it's just him strumming a guitar, and it's just instrumental. Um, but this one, um, David Gilmour and Roger Waters produced produced a few of the tracks on here. One thing I didn't like was, I think it's at the beginning of "If It's in You," the second last track. They kept this take where his voice gave out. It just like hits this weird crackly thing, and it's kind of funny the first time you hear it, but it kind of ruins the record because, and you hear him talking to them saying, no, it's just if we could just cut, you know. I think they were just like trying to get as much out of him as possible in the amount of time that they had in the studio. And he sounds like his voice sounds ragged and tired, like he'd been doing numerous takes just to get that one. I think that they could have cut out that part and just had the song itself, or even scrapped that song and had a 12-track song. I don't know. It's an interesting song, but he just sounded so drawn out, and I think they should have left at least the part of his voice cracking. They could have edited that part out, and it would have been a better record for it. But it's one of my favorite albums of all time. I love it. It's just so unique and interesting, and I always feel good listening to it. The second Syd Barrett record that I have, or CD that I have, is Opal. And this was a collection. Here, I'll put it halfway in front of my face there. That'll be weird. Maybe that'll end up being the screenshot. That this has some early takes of songs, earlier versions that didn't end up on the album. There's an instrumental version of Golden Hair, early versions of Dark Globe, song called Lanky where he's playing guitar. I think that's the one I was talking about. Dolly Rocker. My ex-wife bought me this CD because she knew I liked Syd Barrett and I didn't have this one. And she listened to it before she gave it to me and she's like, what is up with Word Song? It's just him throwing words out there over a fairly repetitive musical progression. But it's part of the creative process. And it's an interesting listen. I wouldn't say it's on par with Barrett, which has some really great songs. I definitely recommend checking that one out. So that's all I have to say about Syd Barrett. I'll talk about him a little bit more when I get to my records. I don't feel like running over across the room and grabbing the 2 record set, but we can talk about that when I get onto my vinyl collection. It might take me a while. I've got a lot of CDs to get through. So anyway, that's all I have for today for Syd Barrett. Go and check him out if you haven't checked out Syd Barrett before. And check out The Piper at the Gates of Dawn by Pink Floyd. That's a very different... You get an idea of how different of a band Pink Floyd might have been if Syd Barrett had continued. So I hope you have a great weekend and enjoy the music. Bye.